Alright, so I'm gonna finally do a video on the Chaos Cauldrons that came out of Mogloween. I know it's like a month later, but I didn't pick them up until more recently, and just playing with them a little bit. They're pretty interesting. I wouldn't say they're like must-haves or that they're I think they're not S tier, but they're close. There's some little nuanced oddities about them that I think are alright. I probably would have preferred that they had different elements, but you know, thematically speaking, fire and darkness probably makes sense for Mogloween, but just a minor gripe. But ultimately, wanted to show off a few things that you can do with them, but just to provide an overview. Alright, so just to provide an overview, so there is a fire and darkness version. They both look exactly the same art-wise. When you click them, so this one says you spend 1 health potion to do 4 turns of alien power. Then there's a cooldown, and then the toxic mana is 4 turns of a fire poison, and then this one you do 1 health and mana potion for 8 turns of 125% Ellie Vuln. So that Ellie Vuln is not ideal for Ellie Vuln stacking because the duration is so long. I think there's only a couple instances in which I would use it. Now I'm going to actually show both instances in this video, but what we're going to talk about first here is the first way to use it. So what we're going to do is we're going to inflict poison. So you got your 3.04 power times 4 rounds, and then what that does is essentially it gap fills, because most poison inflictions, as far as getting to, if you have the Void Forged package, isn't enough. So there's very few things by itself. So you have the GPS armors. They're both of the bio armors will provide enough. The defensive one is the best one, actually. And then you have the Snake Strike spell if all hits land. I've shown that off. And then you have another one that has enough poison is the there's a misc that does a harm poison. The name escapes me. I'll remember in a minute. But it also has poison potence before they did the change where they half the potence if that's what you're inflicting. It's an overcharged SP skill. There's enough poison there, so that you don't have to use celerity. And then the last one is the Nemesis quick cast, which is like over 800 SP. But all of those are basically it. So there's been a lot of poison influx into the game. So what this is going to do is, if you're going to do something that you don't have enough poison for, this basically gap fills it. So I'll just give you an example here. So let me just do this to make sure I land. So basically, this is a weapon-based poison, just to show you. So we have the poison infliction. So we have the 2 different elements, and then we'll come over here to the Void Forged, and then you have the ability to imbue. And so the Cauldrons, you're spending a potion, and if you have an estate, you can go refill. If you have the Sky Castle, up to 25 potions, that's no big deal. So that's the first usage of the Cauldrons that I think is maybe one of the most beneficial ways. Alright, another quick way to utilize the Cauldrons is basically, we have this new spell that's from the new Harvest quest, the Harvest Limited Time Shop, the 4-meter Harvest Skeleton. It's a clone of the one that came out of Mogloween that basically it's a panic eater. Well, in this case, it is a poison eater. So basically, you're just going to inflict your poison, and then Moglowcorn would be better. I actually have it on a different character right now. I don't really typically carry a damaging misc on me, but basically this spell is going to eat poison, so I'm going to get maybe some lucky strikes and some boosts and some tropo shield. Also, my Earth Cutlass is on another character, but basically it's just going to eat your poison. You're going to get more damage, and so it just causes a quick battle. You just use your Cauldron, inflict poison, and then eat it. So it only costs 1 potion to do it. It's not a huge boost, but it's enough with Spellcaster Lean and some buffs to take down most monsters in 1 turn. Alright, so now moving on to the next way that I prefer to use the Cauldrons. So I just hopped into Necromancer. It lucky striked the barrier, so I'm at 966. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to grab the Cauldron, and we're going to actually inflict Elevuln. So we've got 8 turns at 125%. Now the next thing we're going to actually do here is, let's see, I can do this with or without Zfinity. I'll just do it with, just to try and increase the effect here. So we've got 8 rounds of 139. And then I'm going to use Wingweaver's Spirit. So it's going to give me a barrier after I cast a spell or attack. And then I'm going to use Mana Crystal Defender, and it will give me a barrier after I cast a spell. Then I'm going to grab Wishweaver's Indignation, and I'm going to make sure it's on barrier mode. It gives a barrier after the spell goes, but it will also eat Elevuln and give a bigger barrier. So I'm going to basically get barrier from Necromancer after a spell, barrier from Mana Crystal Defender after a spell, another barrier here after the spell, and then a barrier here which will eat this Elevuln here. So I want to see what kind of barrier I end up with. So it's giving me a 2700 barrier, but I actually have a 4K barrier because of all of the stuff rolled in, and that's just on 1 turn. I did get lucky on the lucky strike here, so probably realistically we're probably looking at 3500. So that's one way to utilize the Elevulns. We still have Elevuln listed. Go ahead and cast it again. This time I got another 938. So now I'm over 5000 barrier. So as you can see, a lot of barrier. Now, to maybe further kind of enhance this, now I'm going to hop over, if you have it, to Wingweaver. And then I'm going to actually swap my weapon to the Wingweaver. And if you remember, this one's going to eat barrier for more damage. And if there's enough barrier there, it's going to be free. So I'm just going to, this is going to be a weapon-based skill. As you can see, it's pretty good damage. I'm basically eating, I've got so much barrier I could sit here and do this for a while. I really think the Wingweaver, Wishweaver stuff needs to have the stuff down below. The clickables are problematic. As you can see, I still have plenty of barrier there, and I have a free weapon-based skill that's getting Elecomp because it's in Wingweaver. So that's how you can use the 2 sets, Wishweaver and Wingweaver, together. Pretty quick battle. I didn't even use boosters, it would have been even more. Didn't use Berserks, didn't use Polala. As you can imagine, there's some potential there to increase that by quite a bit. Alright, so last but not least, going to demonstrate what else I would use the Cauldron for. So a couple of things here. So when I inflict the Elevon, it's a single element. Like if I were to use, let's say, Independence Dagger and my pets and guests go, it would add to this because it's fire. So what it's going to be doing is it's going to slowly grow the Elevon because it's trying to average it in. But whenever you have other Elevons that are multiple elements, it's listed as a separate line item, and therefore it's a pure boost. There's no average. It's literally taking the 125.75, for example, that's listed here. So what you can end up doing essentially is end up with more shenanigans. For example, Tropo Shield is a triple element Elevon. And so what I'm going to do here, and I hope this monster has enough hit points, and there's a chance it doesn't. So fire is 110%, so I'm going to do my Void Skulls both on SP heal mode, and then I'm going to get a Shadow Feeder round, because that's going to be essential to what I'm going to attempt here. I can go one of two ways right now, so I'm going to use Optico. I could use the Independence Dagger, and it will grow this slightly. It might get up to 130%, something like that. Or I can actually just use Foam Finger. I can either just do pet mode, or I can do pet and guest mode. I think I'm going to just do pet mode only, because I think it will be better with Lucky Strikes. So the first thing I'm going to do, since I have celerity, is so we've got this Elevon inflicted. So now we have the dual Elevon of 192.44 there, and then the 125. As you notice, they're listed separately because they're different. They're different line items. And then when Tropo Shield goes in a second, it'll be the same thing. But actually, instead of for this turn, and I'll use it next turn, what I'm going to do is use the Pumpkin Spice Rune Tablet. Alright, so I'm actually going to cast the spell, which is going to get this boost here from these Elevons. It is also going to give me celerity for the player only next round. So I get to go twice with Dark Invader, if I so choose. So I'm going to cast this spell, and you're going to see all these Elevon boosts. It's going to do some pretty good damage, so not too bad. Right at a couple thousand, and then I'll just heal back my SP here. So I'm ready to go again. So we've got the Def Loss here. We've got Def Loss. The Cauldron also does Def Loss, so it's Def Loss to fire. So it's got negative 8.5, and then we have from Dark Invader negative 17.3. So those also don't stack. So I'm basically just got 25 BTH for my attack spells, pets, guests. So it's a pretty nice little thing here. Alright, so we're on to the next round, right? So I'm going to use Foam Finger. So I've got 2 attacks now. I'm actually going to go ahead and swap to Silas, which will Ellie Seek to fire. The damage from Silas I'm pretty curious about here. So the first turn, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and do the Elevon skill here. So now the energy and fire is up to 238. The one from the Cauldron remains at 125. Now I'm going to come back with Zfinity Power, and it's going to modify Dark Invaders because it was the last one inflicted. It's now up to 289. So now I'm going to come back to Optico, and then I'm going to hop over to Neko, and then I'm going to use Foam Finger. I'm going to hit Cataclysm, and actually I'm not going to use that. I'm just going to use the Havarti Blade. Hopefully it'll proc. So I probably after this I'll have full SP, but the monster's going to be dead with all these Elevones. It's going to get crazy. Proct. Let's see what Silas can do. 1,000, 3,000, and there you have it. Just stacking Elevones, especially if different. Typically it's different kinds because it's listing multiple elements, so it's a pure boost. So basically 2 turns and 9,000 hit points later, using basically Beastmaster ideas. But that's it. That's how I use the Cauldrons. I think that's the best way to go. If you have any ideas, please share.